This video we're going to look at an example of a linear regression question. So here we've been given a data set that has information about a similar organisation, giving a score out of 20 to different washing machines and the price of that washing machine in each case. And we've been asked in the question to find the correlation coefficient between these two sets of data and the equation of the line of regression. And then we're asked a subsequent question about how much we'd expect to pay for a machine that scored full marks, 20 out of 20 in the survey. So as with all questions like this, we'll be using the formulas for finding our line of linear regression and our correlation coefficient. And I've put the formulas up on the screen just now, which are available in the formula sheet for the unit. So we've got two formulas. We need to find values B and A, which are going to give us the line of linear regression. And we've also got a formula for finding R. And as ever, we need to have various sums calculated. So all the x's added together, that's the mark out of 20, all the y's added together, that's RRP. And then x times y, x squared and y squared are the things we need. So in a question like this, we'd always create a table that looked a bit like this. We'd have x, y, x times y, x squared and y squared. And we would start off by listing each one. So the first, for machine A, our value for x is 16, our value for y is 300. X times y, if we do that quickly, we'll find that that is 4,800. X squared is 256, and y squared is 90,000. Now, there's 9 of these, and to keep the video short, I'm not going to do them all by hand. So instead, what I'll do, I'll rub this out. I've got a table that I've already made with these values pre-populated, so I'll just copy this and bring it across just now. As you can see in the table, we've put in each x and y value and made those 3 calculations for each row. And at the very bottom, underneath the line, just wait for this to move across. There, under the line, we've got the totals, and these are our sigma values. So we've got sigma x, sigma y, sigma xy, sigma x squared, and sigma y squared. And that will allow us to have all the values we need in order to carry out the calculations on the left. Another thing to add is sometimes questions would ask you to plot the graph. Now, I'm not going to plot it by hand here because it's a little bit harder to do in the whiteboard, but I've made one up in Excel, and if you're plotting the graph in this question, it doesn't actually ask us to do it here, it'd look a bit like this, and this is a suitable graph with axis labelled. And of course, the x-axis is a horizontal one, that's the marks out of 20, and the y-axis is RRP in pounds. So we've got our 2 axes there labelled, and that's what our scatter graph looks like. And so we could probably see at a glance before we even work out our R value is going to be close to 1. There's a strong positive correlation here. But let's take these values over and let's do our calculation. So what we'll do is I'll just copy out the totals from our table, because that only bit of table we actually need to do our calculation is a bit down the bottom. So I'm going to copy that. And I move across to the other side of the whiteboard here. So we've still got our question up and our formulas. And these are our values here. So let's work out our value for B first of all. So B is equal to N. Well, N for this, I should write down N is equal to 9. We have 9 washing machines here. So B is equal to 9. And then from our formula, it says multiply that by the sum of all the x, y's. So 28390, and then subtract that from the sum of all the x's, that's 111, times the sum of all the y's, that's 210. We divide that through again, we've got n at the bottom, so 9 times the sum of all the x's squared, so that's 1485, minus, And this is where we have to be careful, is the sum of all the x's and then that number squared. So it's not 1485, it's 111 and then squaring it. That's what we're doing here. Now, if we put all of this into our calculator and solve, the answer that we're going to come out with, I'll take it to 3 decimal places to ensure some accuracy for the next step, is 9.770 is our value for B. And depending on how we do our calculation, we may get a slightly different answer from A in a second, but this is the answer for B to 3 decimal places. To find out A, we do our calculation here, and A is thankfully a bit simpler. The sum of all of our y's, which in this case is 2210, minus B, which is 9.770. Now, in my answer, I'm actually going to use the stored value in my calculator for B, so it's something that's a bit closer to 9700115, and then it goes on from there. And multiply by that by the sum of all of the x's, which is 111. And that's all divided by n, our number of data points. And using the calculator value for B and doing that calculation, what comes out here is 125.05 and 8 to 3 decimal places there. So that's our values for A and B. So from this, we can state our line of linear regression, which is this: y is equal to 125.058 plus 9.770 x. Now, before we go on to find our regression coefficient, our correlation coefficient, we'll just jump ahead a second and answer the final part of the question because it directly relates to this. We're asking the question, how much would we expect to pay for a machine which scored full marks? Well, a machine that scores full marks, if you look at our x, is out of 20. So a machine that scores x is equal to 20, we'd expect that to score, well, let's put in our values, 125.058 plus 9.770 times 20, because 20 is our value for x when it's full marks. And if we enter this in, let's see what we get as our answer. I get an answer of 320.458. Now, this answer is in pounds and pence, so we could say that the answer here was 320 at pounds 46. Now, a question like this, washing machines are not priced to the nearest penny unless it's something £299.99. So a sensible answer might be, given looking at these, say about £320, because remember, this is not a formula that's going to give us an exact value for a price, it's a prediction of it. But leaving the answer as 320.458 or £320.46 would also be acceptable in a question like this. The final part of the question, I can just do it down, I'll move the graph out of the way because it's right here. The important question is to calculate the correlation coefficient, and R is given in the second line here, the equation 2. And again, we looked at the graph, we thought it's quite close to being a straight line, so we shouldn't be surprised if this is about 1, this answer. Well, let's fill it all in. So we have n is 9, the sum of x, y is 28390. Minus the sum of x, 111 times 2210, and careful with the bottom bit. Now, if you're putting this in the calculator, sometimes it's best to put this top bit in brackets before you put the rest in. So, but we don't have to do that when we're writing out our math by hand, but just be careful that we are doing that or calculating. This bottom bit here is the square root of everything in the bottom, and there's 2 brackets. So we've got 9 times the sum of x squared, which is 1485, minus sum of x all squared, so that's 111 squared. And that bracket is multiplied by 9, the value for n, times the sum of y squared, which is quite a big value, 555300, minus the sum of y all squared, so that's 2210. squared. Just about fit that in. Now, taking care with our calculator, if we put all of that in, we're going to get a value for r of 0.937. That's the 3 decimal places, 0.937. Now, that would be a sufficient number of decimal places in any answer. And as you can see, 0.937, that's quite a high correlation coefficient. If you're ever asked to comment on that, you can say it's a very strong positive correlation. If you're ever asked to draw a correlation coefficient like that, it would look a bit like our graph here. So you can pretty much see the straight line that runs through it, points just above and just below the line that we've calculated. And of course, the equation of that line is y equals 125.058 plus 9.770x. And that concludes the question, and we've answered all aspects of it.